Well, I think I have found the show that I need to do and my audience. Then that show is talking about, you know, pocket knives and, you know, my, you know, being a slut or whatever, just a little bit thrown in. And my audience is the hung African American knife nerd community that I didn't know existed. I say, I like what I like, and like they do too. I'm hot. Like I think that's the thing. Like a lot of people didn't get for a long time talking to me is like, yes, I am self-conscious and hide behind a camera and whatever. But at the same time, there's a big slice of the world that like follows me down the street into stores. Last time I went to buy shoes at Academy, I had 4 different guys try to pick me up. That just is what it is. Okay? Like, I don't think I'm that particularly good looking. I think it's the ass and the tits and the height. Like, it's all of it. Like, I don't know. But I figure if such people exist, then I'm making a show for you because you're who I really like anyway. Like, I'm kind of a lesbian that likes big dicks. So, like, um, if you like to have, fucking no strings attached sex and have a large dick, like, we could probably be friends. That's kind of where it is. And I'm not saying I wouldn't ever, date or marry a guy. I'm dating around with guys right now because, like, I had a woman break my heart, and I just can't do that again right now. And guys are fun, and if something serious happens, cool. If not, cool. But that's kind of where I'm at in life, and I'm having fun. And if there are people that are listening to this that are also dating and doing whatever, and in the Tulsa area, and obsessed with knives and chubby white trans women with nice tits, you know, you could hit me up. That's what I'm saying. That was kind of hilarious to see that my worlds cross audiences. Even really, that there is a slice of people that like all the same shit I do. I think that's kind of nice, and yeah, these things talking about knives and fucking and smoking weed. Like this is me. This is what I like. This is what I like to do. If you gave me my druthers, I'd rather play with pocket knives and smoke weed and you know watch YouTube and have kinky sex. That's not the world we live in, unfortunately. The world we live in is one where like Putin's gonna nuke us and shit. So that's why we buy multi-tools. Which brings us to the topic of today's video. I've been looking into multi-tools and I'm buying a few. I have one multi-tool right now that is my Leatherman Juice that I've had for forever. Got it for Christmas in the 90s, I think, maybe 2000s. I like this thing. It's a good multi-tool, but it is, it's a Swiss Army knife, really. It's a Swiss Army knife with a good set of pliers. It's not a full size or even like regular size multi-tool. What I mean by that is like to me there's three sizes of multi-tool, right? There's like the pocket tool. This would include shit like the Juice, the Leatherman Micro, the Skeletool. The next size up is like your normal size multi-tools. This would include the original Leatherman PST, the Rebar, the Wave, the Blast, shit like that. And then you got your big mamma jammas in the third category, which is like the Super Tool 300 and the Surge and akin to those. And I don't have any of those other two categories. So I bought a rebar because I really like the Super Tool 300, but it's a little big. So I wanted to try the rebar. I bought that used on eBay. It's in the mail. And I'm shopping now for another multi-tool. And I really like the original Leatherman PST. It's a good tool. And now they make a multi-tool that's called the Bond, which is the PST reborn. It's it's a remake of it. It's kind of updated a little bit, and they tweaked it, and like it, I like it. I think I'm gonna buy it. But at the same time, I've always wanted a Skeletool, and the reason I've always wanted a Skeletool is because it's kind of neat, and I like the pliers on the Juice, and the Skeletool pliers are roughly that size, I think, maybe a little bit bigger, and it would be handy to have, with a Swiss Army knife, a set of pliers with a good 154 cm knife on it, which is what the Skeletool that I want is. So if I can get that cheap, I'm going to do that. If not, though, the Leatherman Bond is where I'm headed. And it's not like that's the best or whatever. I like, in a multi-tool, I like the older school shit. And I've used them all. I've used the Surge, I've used the Wave, I've used whatever. I don't like the outside accessible tools. I like them on the Juice, but it's like, it's its own thing. It's a Swiss Army knife, like I said. But on the bigger tools, if I'm going to be using that multi-tool, I don't know exactly what I'm going to be pulling out. And the pliers and the knife and the saw are the likely options. And there's no way to put all of those outside accessible in a good way. And I think the way the original Leatherman did things was the best. And the way the rebar does it, where it's now locking and kind of a little heavier duty, it has 154 cm cutters. That's the way, really. Like, I'm buying this Leatherman Bond as like a cool EDC knife. That's what I'm buying it for. Like, I don't know if it has a serious purpose beyond that. It might end up in a kit. But I'm eventually going to buy one of these because I like the original PST and I like the subtle changes that they did to it in the Bond. And the only thing that I would wish they had done is I want the original PST as it should have been. It should have had a saw blade on it, and it should have had, a couple other things. They went a little light. I want to see the Bond 2 or whatever. Like, I want to see the Leatherman Bond with a full toolkit. So cross the Leatherman Bond and the Super Tool 300, and like I guess you would get the rebar, right? But like I want the like original pocket tool plus a saw and a couple other things. I'd have to look at exactly what tools are on there and what tools that we could add, come up with that. But the saw is the glaring omission to me. Like, a multi-tool that doesn't have a saw is somewhat pointless to me, except as a companion to a Swiss Army knife, which is exactly what I'm going to use that Bond for. And maybe that's why they made it that way. No need to carry shit if you're already carrying a fucking Swiss Army knife, but that seems like a silly way to be. Like, I'm just gonna plan to carry a dozen knives. Like, that's the way I am, but that's not the way everyone is. And that's like my chase on this topic is I'd like to find the one knife to recommend to people. And right now it's looking like the rebar. If I was gonna recommend you get one pocket knife, one pocket tool, I think I would get the Leatherman rebar. And I've used the Super Tool 300 a lot. I've seen the changes they did to the rebar. I haven't handled it in person yet. But basically, the only issue with the Super Tool 300 in my book was that it was too goddamn big, too heavy. And they put the thing on a diet and didn't really lose any tools. So, yeah, I think I'm going to like the rebar quite a bit. like we'll see. Like this is why I like to get stuff in hand and actually use stuff. But until proven otherwise, the rebar has my vote of confidence. Um, I don't know which one I'm going to get, Skeletool versus Bond, because basically it's going to be about the same amount of money if I get the deal on the Skeletool. I'm not going to spend more money to get the Skeletool, so that might determine somewhat which one I get. Well, the Skeletool just sold, I guess. That sucks. Looks like I'm getting a Bond. Like, I don't really need to spend this money on this. I probably should buy a water filter, but I've got like the pocket knife bug now. And I just saw this new multi-tool. It's the Leatherman Bond. And let me tell you about why I'm fucking excited about it. My thing that I lusted after for years was my grandfather's Leatherman. It was an original PST, and that's how I ended up with this juice. As I told my mother I wanted a Leatherman, she asked me which one, and I went to Target to pick it out. And so I kind of like looked at the models and wrote them down, and then went on the early internet and like looked at them all a bunch and decided what I wanted. And I picked the Juice CS4 because they didn't really have a PST. And I looked at then, okay, well, if I can't get that one, well, what can I get that I would like? And I handled a few. Like I handled the blast kick, that whole fucking series of them. I didn't like any of those. That would have been the logical, hey, this is the successor to that, right? But no. I ended up deciding I wanted the juice because it was the cool new one in a color, and it was smaller, and I liked everything about it kind of. And I'm kind of a chick. That's I'm drawn to the tiny knife, I guess. Cat, what are you doing? Anyway, who's a cutie? My cat's adorable. The thing that I didn't like about the blast kick, that series of them, is the feel of the plastic handle. I just didn't like that at all. I think the juice with its aluminum sides did a much better job of that. And these new ones that they're making now with the rebar and now the bond, they've gone back to this like folded metal design that the original PST had that I love. And that's the thing that I loved about the Super Tool 300, was that it was basically a PST supersized with locking tools and a full complement of tools. I'm like, this is the PST as it always should have been. And really, for a survival kit, if I was going to put a tool in like a lifeboat survival kit or something, I would get the Super Tool 300. That's what that tool's made for. It's heavy duty, but it ain't going to fail you. It doesn't have a bunch of bullshit tools with like components to get lost or whatever. It has 154 cm replaceable cutters, and everything else is just a part of the tool. This is the way. Like that's the way I like it. I don't really care for bit drivers on these, but the Juice, goddamn, I wish they had done a bit driver instead of its flat blades. There's only one of those I can get out without cutting myself. It's pretty poor design. Everything else about the Juice is pretty much good. But I love this juice so much, I might actually buy a backup so I can carry this more. Because, like, right now, if I lost this, I would be heartbroken. And if I had a backup, I could keep this one safe, carry the backup, and, going out places or whatever, and still have the one that's sentimental or whatever tucked away at home. Use it around the house, and, like, when you're not going to be going someplace that you might lose it. So, like for me, like if you're gonna go to grandma's house, it's perfectly okay to bring something that you might, hate losing. Whereas if you go to, I don't know, rappel down the Grand Canyon, maybe you bring a different multi-tool. That's my philosophy. It's, you know, how replaceable is this thing to you? Is there any sentimental value? Well, then you should leave it at home. Find wherever you keep your treasures, keep it there. And like for me anymore, that's kind of becoming my purse to some extent. That's not the best way to be, but like it's the end of the world. I don't know where to keep the shit that I value. And as a result, I'm carrying this juice now. And I'd like to have at least another one, like in case I lost this one. Yeah. Also, I broke the awl on this and repaired it, and it's shorter now, but it works better. And I'd like to get another one of these juices, maybe the bigger one that has the file on it, and just sharpen its awl from the get go. Might do that because that would be an upgrade, and I could get the purple one, plum crazy purple. I think they're about the same amount of money. It'd be cool to have a file on it. So I might retire this one and get the purple one. I did not get the purple one back in the day because I did not want to look like a fag. That's it, hand to God. I looked at the models. The one with all of the tools only came in purple, and I didn't want purple. The next one down was the CS4 that they took off the file and the serrated blade and made it blue. I'm like, well, I'd want the file, but I don't like serrated blades anyway, so give me the blue one. Like, it's not that I didn't like purple. I think purple is a perfectly fine color. I actually like purple as a color now. That's the funny part. It's one of several colors that I like. At that time, because of me being me and trying to hide who I was, I couldn't like a purple multi-tool then. I think that's kind of sad. It makes me want to get the purple one even more. And then it'll have different ones in the collection or whatever. So I might just get that. I probably should just get that. The Bond is so tempting though, but I think I can get one of those purple juices for like $70 on eBay. Juice. It's the XE6. There you go. There's one bidding for $73 right now, and one bidding for $38. I could get like a beat up one. If I got a beat up one, I bet it'd be pretty cheap. And like this is my thing, is my blue juice is well loved, and I like it that way. It would be cool to get a purple one to match it. There's brand new ones for $300, which would be sweet too. It'd be nice to break one in. See what the buy it now is on this. $160 for a beat up one. That seems excessive. You like Ray Ray's Knife Show? I know there's at least one person that likes this show now because I got a message about it. Said he was 6'10" and he wanted to do bad things to me. Sounds like fun. I'm like a total freak. I think that's another thing a lot of people don't get is, yeah, like not all transgender women are freaks. I just happen to be one of those. I say freaks, like sexual freaks. Yeah, these are expensive. That might kill this. Like, there's not a one of these under $200, basically. There's one here for $139. It's beat up too. Like a cheap one of these is $150. I guess I wasn't the only one that didn't like purple. That's what that tells me. It didn't sell well. Also, pretty quickly after I bought this, they did come out with other colors of that model in particular. They came out with a gray one. which I think was in response to, dude, you made the one that I want to buy a color that I will never fucking buy. And, I think that's a legitimate thing to say. Like, I think color matters. Purple, to me now, is cool to have in variation and whatever, and I already have a blue one. To me, as a kid, then, this was my one multi tool that I was going to have for a long time. I still have it now, 20 some years later. I didn't want a fucking purple one. Didn't want it then. I wouldn't want this thing to be purple now. It's not who I was when I wanted this then. And like that's the thing that always really pissed me off about the juice line for Leatherman is it's like a fuck you to your tastes. They should have made all of the tool sets in all of the colors, or made one model, okay, with one full set of tools and put it in all the colors. That's what I would have done. Because I don't see a point in having a Leatherman juice that doesn't have everything you need on it. This is a really small multi-tool. Like, nothing fancy doesn't make any sense to me sometimes. Here's, an aside. I have watched Nothing Fancy for years. I'm a fan of Nothing Fancy. Um, Especially when it comes to multi-tools and pocket knives. I've watched him a lot. I agree and disagree on some things, and this is one of those things. Is he loves one of the Leatherman juices that's the S2 that has basically no tools on it. I've handled an S2. It weight-wise versus the CS4 is virtually no difference. The only thing I would say is if you don't want a fucking corkscrew, the corkscrew is annoying. However, I said this before, you know, I have used the fuck out of my corkscrew, so it doesn't bother me. I want it there. Like this is, again, for me, for the amount of weight carried for the S2 versus the CS4, I'll take the extra tools. Like, why would you buy a less capable version of the same tool? Now, if it's like, oh, the rebar versus the Super Tool 300, that makes sense. Okay, that's a big difference, especially in your pocket. The juice, any of the juices are tiny. There's no reason to go like, oh, I need the tiniest juice. If you're gonna do that, like, I don't know. I want to feel that purple one again before I say I would just get the biggest one. But I happen to love the size of the CS4. I I don't know why you would give up the saw blade, the awl, the corkscrew, and I think it's the bottle opener that they give up on that. Like they give up quite a bit for the one Nothing Fancy likes. I I don't agree. I like the more capable juice. And that's me with multi tools in general is I can take a little bit of weight. It's you're telling me that you can't take a couple extra ounces on a multi tool that does a dozen different things for you. There's a lot of places to cut weight. I don't think the multi tool is one of those places. Ugh, the bigger one you get, the more capable it is. The juice for a Swiss Army knife sized thing is the most capable thing that you can get. If you consider it a Swiss Army knife, which I do, it is very much, I have it sitting here with a classic red plastic handled Swiss Army knife and an aluminum handled Swiss Army knife. It's in the same size range. I use it for all the same things as those. It's one of those knives, but it's made by Leatherman. And that's what I always thought was cool about it. And like I wish that Leatherman would let me design a multi-tool. Because I would fuse a couple of different things. And like I would take a lot of shit from the juice. They hit a home run with the juice, in my opinion. Um, but I like the juice in its current size. However, it would be cool to make one that was like a full size in the style of the juice, like an inch longer with locking blades. And that's what I would do. Is I want the one multi tool. This juice is not enough. The super tool is too much, and the rebar is about right, but it doesn't have the style and tool complement really of the juice. It doesn't have the corkscrew. Okay, it doesn't have tweezers or a fucking toothpick or shit like that. I need something that totally replaces my Swiss Army knife and my juice and my rebar. I would like that multi-tool. And they don't make that. And I think it's on purpose. I think they want to sell you more multi-tools. And the color of the handle scales that I would put on said multi-tool, I would make it in like 3 colors. And hear me out. The 3 colors that I would make the juice version 2 in, or whatever you want to call this, the super juice. I like that. I'm going to call it the super juice. Sounds ghetto as fuck. Uh, the super juice, I would make it in 3 colors. And my reasoning on this is you don't want to make it in too many colors. Too many colors, you end up not selling knives. That's just the reality of it. However, there's a few predictable ones that I'm going to tell you are going to be runaway best sellers. Those are the colors that you should make. The first runaway best selling color is black. Why? Because it's black. People like black. Next is going to be OD green. You could say coyote tan. Either one of those colors will do. I like OD green personally. I don't buy coyote tan shit. So make it in both, maybe. You could have that debate. But the third color that I would do is orange. And my reasoning on this is it is a cool, bright color that could be like a chick color. Like if I was a girl and buying that knife and saw these, I would get the orange one. But at the same time, it's not a fucking pink one or whatever. And then at the same time, for high visibility in survival kits and high visibility in the woods, an orange one makes sense. Basically, if I was only going to make 2 colors, I'd make it in black and orange. Because that's what makes sense. Okay, the OD green and FDE ones would be style shit. And those are selling knives to boys and soldiers. That's what that is. Those will sell. Okay, the black one is just I really don't think you should even make a silver multi-tool anymore. When I went looking for them, I'm picking up silver ones cheap on eBay because no one wants them. That's a sign you should make the entire line blackened. When I say blackened, I mean like they do a black oxide finish for military models. They should do that on every fucking piece of stainless steel that they put out. And then for the sides of their knives, like I said, they should make them like the juice, where they have a scale, and then they should make those scales in 3 colors, 4 colors. Like I think 4 colors is acceptable. You could have OD green, FDE, black, and orange. And maybe you could even throw in a 5th color of like a red or a pink or something like a red would be really good as a Swiss Army knife kind of thing. Another lady color. Like if I was going to do a 5th color, I would do red. But like try to keep the colors pared down and make one model and make it available in all those colors. And like Leatherman's good about, making tool sets or whatever and differences and changes and whatever. And if you want to do that next. But the first step of this should be one tool and a bunch of colors. Step two should be, okay, that was a hit. Now we're going to make, you know, the Super Juice 2.0 special edition Flavor Flav, whatever the fuck it's going to be. This one has a clock in it. The Flavor Flav edition. That's just funny. Um, I think that if you did different tool sets in the future, people would buy them as a collectible or whatever. But for the initial tool, don't fuck around. Figure out the set of tools that, like, the most shit that you can cram into this for the size. And then if someone wants a pared down version, then we sell them that later. Okay? Like, that's how you make more money. You don't make more money by making 80 different versions right at the start, I don't think. Maybe that's, my mentality because I had a small knife thing versus Leatherman. Leatherman could afford to release a whole line of this or whatever, but I'm saying, like, let me play with your, design and make this thing that I'm talking about. Make one model, make it in a few colors, see how those sell compared to all the rest of your product line. Because I'm telling you the knife that I'm describing that is like the Juice is what, a 3-inch knife? Yeah. I have it here next to this case, and the case is 4.25 inches. It's a Case Stockman large. And if you made the Juice 4.25 inches, 4.5 inches, somewhere in that range in length, and kept the size of the tool as trim as possible, like the Juice is, you'd get longer, better tools, and you'd have to figure out locking mechanisms. And the thing that occurs to me is we could put liner locks on all the exterior tools. All the interior tools really don't matter. And the things that I would do on the interior is it already has a full Phillips head. I would keep that there and I would make it longer. And then on the other side, I'd put a bit driver. Fuck all that noise of all those little multi blades or whatever. I'd put a bit driver with a long bit that had a flat and like a big flat and a medium flat. And I'd maybe even figure out a way to stow a second bit for that somewhere on the thing, if that's possible. I don't know. I'd have to really think about that. That's one of those, I don't like having detachable stuff, but like the bit driver for that makes sense. The bit driver would fit right in there pretty much. And or you could definitely make one that would take their two-dimensional bits and fit there. And then for the outside of the tools, like, I think a serrated blade is a waste of fucking time, but a lot of people like it. So I would go with the full tool set from the what did they call it? The XE6, the purple one, which is a knife, a serrated knife, scissors, file, saw, corkscrew, can opener, bottle opener, all, and then the screwdrivers and pliers on the inside. I think that would be pretty much the best thing you could have. And my reasoning is basically for what I want a multi-tool to do. If all of the outside tools on that locked, I would have a locking pocket knife, a locking saw, and none of the rest really matter. You could make all the rest of those tools non-locking. But like the two knife blades, the file, and the saw, I would make all of those locking. Because you're going to have to make a mechanism to do the knives, and the saw and file might as well be locking too. Everything else is inconsequential. Um, Scissors don't need to be locking. Awl doesn't need to be locking. Can opener doesn't need to be locking. Screwdrivers really don't need to be locking. They could be if you could figure out a cheap, convenient way to do that. I would, but it's not necessary. And this is the thing where they like get carried away with making shit locking. And like, if you're gonna do the Super Tool 300 thing where you have one big locking mechanism and it just makes everything lock, that's cool. I like that. I don't like the wave where it's like, oh, this lock does this thing and this thing. Like, I get why people like that, but it's complicated for no reason. And what I'm talking about here is I want a lighter weight, slimmer wave that does more shit. Because like at the point we're at now, we have most of the tools I would want. I think pretty much on that XE6, but we could think about things to add. So what would we want to add? Well, I want this to be like a pocket survival kit, like it was originally the pocket survival tool. That's what it was called, right? That's how we all use Swiss Army knives too. So I'm designing the thing that goes in my pocket that is the combination of all of these things. So pretty much you could look at Victorinox's entire line and decide whatever you wanted tool wise and just steal. That's what I would do. I would work things in. Whatever I could work in for free or cheap or no weight, I would do. Um, the one thing that I would definitely do is maybe in the fucking bit driver. I would have a bit for the bit driver that was a ferro rod. I know that sounds weird, but like I can't think of a better way to store that. The way they did it on the Signal is stupid. It does make a disposable one that you can use up, and then yeah, that's cool, and they're right on. I think that they should have made a like dedicated flip out thing that would take a standard, you know, a quarter inch ferro rod that you can just buy. Pick one that there's cheap ones online that are good ferro rods that already have holes drilled in them for like $5. Leatherman should have made a thing that just took one of those and folded for the Signal. That's what I would have done. And in reality, I think a ferro rod worked into this would be very fucking bitchin'. I think um, a whistle would be good. Then they were right on again with the whistle, but they piss poor execution in my estimation. What I would do is make the entire knife a whistle. Like you take it in its folded up form and put it to your mouth, and somehow it's going to make a whistle. We could work on that. There's plenty of ways to do that. Have some sort of like thing built into the plier head that has a hole in it that, fucking makes an ungodly noise. It's not that hard to think of shit like that. And like this is Leatherman we're talking about, right? They have engineers and shit. And like the thing that I am that most of these companies don't realize that they need is that I am the person sitting in the back room playing with shit, getting high, who should go and talk to their engineers. Because an engineer and even their design team, it's not that they don't know how to do their job, it's that they don't do what I do. And what I'm doing here is product development. In this fucking 40-minute video here, we've sat here and like I could just send this to fucking Leatherman and they could say thank you. The multi-tool that we have described here, that is the Super Juice, would sell. I know it would sell. I've sold many knives, and the Juice is a popular knife. And this is the thing is Leatherman right now is realizing going retro a little bit sells knives, and that's what they realized with the Super Tool 300 and rebar and shit, and that's why they're releasing the Bond. they saw the price on PST start to go up on eBay, and we're like, okay, well, we need to make some more of those. But let's update. That's exactly what that knife is. Well, I think you should make the fucking juice of all juices. King juice, super juice. Whatever you want to call it. And that's what I would want to buy. Because really this tool is damn good. The pliers are perfect for a lot of shit. You don't need the world's biggest set of pliers. The only thing I would do is I would put replaceable 154 cm cutters on them, and I would put I would put the smallest plier head that we could get 154 cm cutters into. And the reason is the cutters on my juice, I have fucked up to the point that this thing was trashed 3 times. And because I'm a knife maker and I'm good with files and shit, and a Dremel tool, I resharpened those fucking things. It's not very easy, and I couldn't take it apart, so it was fun. And I don't want to do it again, and they still have a catch from it. They're not 100% perfect. They work as cutters again. I don't remember what I was cutting, but like that's the thing with a Leatherman. The reason why they put the 154 cm cutters on there in the first place is because of people like me sending them in tools going, I need a new plier head. Okay. And I don't understand now why they're making $80 tools that don't have that. The Leatherman curl is an abomination of a tool. I was talking to my buddy about this earlier today. I sent him a video that I'd watched that I'm just like, I don't know why this exists, because his favorite multi-tool is the Wave. And my favorite multi-tool is probably the rebar once I get it in hand, but we'll just say it's the rebar for now. And what they did was they made a multi-tool that was like, they took the worst parts of all those designs, mixed them together, and then charged $10 more than the rebar for it. And I'm like, okay, I know you like the Wave better than the rebar, but you got to be with me right on. You would buy the rebar 100 times over this thing. He's like, that's not a Wave. Yeah, it's not exactly what he said, but he didn't really say that. Sam's probably watching this, so that's the thing, though, is like, I know him well enough to know that he would never buy that knife over the rebar, even though he fucking wants the outside accessible tools. Okay, they fucked that thing up pretty damn good. They didn't put 154 cm cutters on it, and the 2 outside accessible tools on the knife are the main blade, as it should be, and a file. And the only thing I can think of as to why they did that is that the original pocket survival tool, the main tools on it were a knife and a file, other than the plier head. So they're trying to make like a mix between the Wave and a PST, and they failed miserably because they already make the rebar, which is a much better execution of a tool in that size, and it's $10 cheaper than this thing that they made. No one in their right mind would buy that other than a multi-tool collector. If you want to know a multi-tool to go buy a half a dozen of and sit on, like, try to find the fucking curl. Like, that's not going to be a thing they make very long. Like, that's the only thing that I would say for that knife is, like, from a collector standpoint, maybe that's going to become the unicorn, because, like, my buddy and I both are hardcore multi-tool guys. He is more than I have been. I come and go with them. I also like Swiss Army knives a lot, and I don't always need pliers. It's kind of my thing. I have a set of pliers if I need pliers a lot of the time. That's part of the blacksmithing thing. You know, got lots of pliers and tongs and whatnot. In any case, though, neither one of us like that multi-tool. And we're, like I said, two different ends of the spectrum on their buying public. I love the rebar. He loves the wave. Like, I think those are kind of the two camps. There's the people that like the modern tools that come out and whatever, because they're only carrying one thing in their pocket, and it's a Leatherman, and they want to be able to access the knife blade. I know that because that was me for a long time going to school and shit. I was only going to have one thing with me. I wanted to have the multi-tool, but fuck, now I have to open this thing every time I just to get the knife blade out. Okay, those are the people that buy waves. The people that buy Super Tool 300s and rebars are, I already have a dedicated pocket knife. This is a multi-tool, and my blade in my multi-tool is a backup knife in case this multi-tool is the only thing I've got. So as a result, if I'm pulling out the multi-tool, it's not to pull out a knife blade. So I don't fucking care if it's quick to access or not. Like, I would like that to be a really, really sharp blade that never gets used. Okay. On my super juice, I think we should go with a different philosophy. If this is going to be the one thing in my pocket, I'd like it to be in 154 cm. Leatherman already does 154 cm. That's a very good steel. It's better than whatever the cheap ass was at 420 they normally use. It's a good upgrade. It's an upgrade you can do for not much money. 154 cm is a cheap steel. It's stainless. People like it. And I would go with a Spidey hole, which they already kind of do on a lot of their stuff. I would make all the rest of the tools like the tools on the Juice, where they have nail nicks. But the knife blade, the main blade only, I would put a Spidey hole on it. Maybe even a wave. Not a wave. It's a multi-tool. Like a waved fucking locking blade on it would be badass. And then like put a pocket clip. I'd like to see that too. Because like this thing would be about the footprint of a balisong, but it would have a fucking toolbox in it, basically. And that is what could happen if you fused a PST and a Juice, or a PST, a Juice, and a super tool or a rebar, like into this one perfect tool. That's what I see, is like that's what they're trying to do with the curl, and they fail miserably at it because they don't have me and my buddy. And like, are we engineers? No. What are we? We are nerds that obsess over fucking knives that love Leathermans. Okay? And like, it's one of those things like, how do you do market research or whatever? Like, the way Leatherman should do market research is talking to me, for damn sure. And like, the reason I say that is not because I am the end all be all of knives or whatever, but because I, what I did making knives, I was making things just kind of off the cuff in styles that I thought would appeal to people. I was able to do that because I obsess over studying people, because I'm an anthropologist. So my interest in knives somewhat is, what does everybody else use? Why do they use that? And how does that inform what I buy and try? And my buddy is pretty much kind of the same way. And what they need is a group of like 4 or 5 of us that have different tastes, that all have offices at their place. And like that, this is what we do: is we sit around and fucking, you know, watch survival movies and smoke and talk shit about fucking knives and go use the shit out in the woods. Maybe they have that, but if they have that, they fucking let them down on the fucking curl. And like, I guess this is my point with Leathermans is it really depends what you're gonna do with a Leatherman. And what I'm trying to tell you here with the super juice is this is a tool you could do almost anything with that you could just keep in your fucking pocket. And that's what I like as an outdoorsman, adventurer, whatever person that likes knives. I am always going to have a fighting folding knife, probably, right? And what I mean by that is like something like a cold steel Raja. That's, I'm gonna have that, and that's not really a tool. But as a result, like I'm not gonna carry, a fucking surge. It's too much thing to carry in addition to what is I already have another knife. So I need a lightweight toolbox to go in my fucking, right pocket with my keys that does a lot of shit. And in my opinion, the place to compromise on this is not the length of the tool, it's the width of it. Length gets you a lot of shit on this, especially with the saw blade. That's a critical number one thing is you need to have as long a saw blade as possible on this tool. Is a survival tool, right? And like the saw blade is important. It the longer saw you have, the longer piece of wood you can span, the faster you can cut. And the knife blade is kind of the same way. Bigger knives are more useful. Oh. And that's what length gives you. All width gives you is like the salesman's sample Swiss Army knife, where it's like 18 inches long. That's stupid. You don't need one that has 100 different things in it. You need the 20 things that you need. So what do you need in your pocket? Well, if I was going to design a tool, like I said, the tool complement that I would put on it is that of the XE6, but bigger, longer, and locking. You could tweak that or whatever, and like the knife blade, you should not make it fucking partially serrated. It should be a plain edge. I do agree that this is a multi-tool, and I think a serrated sheep's foot blade with a nail nick somewhere on the backside of the knife as a shit knife, fuck yeah, I like that. That's my Stockman that I bought from Case. The second blade on it is a sheep's foot blade, and it is the shit work blade. Replace that. That's a good thing to replace. And you can make that one serrated all you want, because I don't give a fuck about it. The main blade needs to be a good steel, needs to be plain edge, needs to be a shape that, like, if I had to pull this thing out and stab somebody, it would not do that. I know that's like a lot to ask, but this is going to be in my pocket every day. It could be the only thing that I have. Like, what if it's the only thing that you had and someone is mugging you or some shit? Wouldn't you rather have something designed to stab with? This is my thought on knife design in general is my knives were always made to be a sword first and foremost. And once they were a good sword, then I was like, okay, well, we need to have, woods tasks that this thing probably does too, because it's going to do that a hell of a lot more than it is going to do sword things. And the thing that, my knives would get you back in the day is a convex edge for a sword makes a good bushcraft knife. So like that's why I made those. There's a lot of thought behind that. It's like for a fixed blade knife on a soldier's hip, the two things that he might have to do with that knife are like, well, other than like opening MREs, are like stabbing people and like whittling sticks and shit. So bushcraft and fighting. And the appleseed edge of a sword, that's the way to go with that. Have you ever handled any of the blades that I made with that in mind? Like Matt Never Enough Ammo has one of those. I've got a few of them here. I owe one to Tim that I still need to ship. Oh, I'm waiting on my car to get fixed right now, and it's hard to fucking get anything out as a result of that. And I'm a bad, bad friend slash knife selling person. Anyway, I really think that Leatherman should make this tool. They don't make the tool that I want to buy. And as a result, I'm buying 4 tools. More than that, really. I've In order to have the pocket knife that I desire, I'm up to about 7 pocket knives. Okay, 2 Swiss Army knives, a case knife, and I have one multi-tool now. Now we're working on a second, and to work on the second, we've added 3, maybe. Like, it's not right. Like, I think my end goal here is I'm gonna find one thing that replaces all of these, and then I have these as gifts for my nephew. That's kind of what a lot of this is. Some of these are me and for me, and some of these are like definitely, you know, my nephew's going to have birthdays coming up, and I want to give him knives with miles on them. And maybe that's where this case knife goes. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm probably going to be calling Case because this thing has several glaring issues that, like, basically, it started out at, well, I don't like that. Oh, I don't like that. And then it got to, well, that's a deal breaker. Well, that's a deal breaker. And there's several things on here now that I'm not going to talk too much shit until I see how their customer service is. But if this is representative of the product Case makes, Case is going to go out of business. I I hope everyone is enjoying my knife show slash, I guess, occasionally mentioning sex. Like, we could talk more about that kind of shit too, but I feel that most of the audience doesn't like that. If you're liking, the kinky interludes, let me know. Oh, if I had to tell you guys anything about love and life and kinky sex, it's don't be afraid to go for what you want exactly. You'll find it. And that's kind of my thing with multi-tools too, is go for what you want, try it. Maybe you'll get lucky. But it is a fucking battlefield littered with fucking horrible multi-tools. All of the ones that I've mentioned here are Leathermans because that's all I buy. I wouldn't buy a multi-tool that didn't say Leatherman on it. I might try a Swiss Army one someday. I've played with enough non-Leatherman multi-tools to know that I don't like non-Leatherman multi-tools. Just like I don't like non-Victorinox Swiss Army knives. It's the same kind of thing. Like, they're the original. They make it at a very high quality standard at a very affordable price. That's kind of like the case knife too. Back in the day was, you know, basically you could get a custom knife for production money. And that's not 100% true on this one. Like, I have seen Rough Riders that are better knives than this one. Maybe not made out of better materials, but the finish work on a Rough Rider is much better than this knife. That's sad. Welcome to the new America. We're going to become a third world fucking country pretty soon. I made a video yesterday on what the Wheel of Pain means to me, and I got a comment on it saying that I was, losing my mind. Um, okay. Like if that's what you want to think. My thing is like I'm done taking shit from the government. I'm taking shit from anyone really. And I believe what I believe, and I'm doing my thing. And I intend to talk shit on the internet while dating hung men and hopefully trans lesbians. Go have fun. Might as well have fun until the fucking nukes fly. That's where I'm at. I'm sorry if you think I'm crazy as a result of it. Well, I'm going to cut this one off here. It's been an hour. Um, I think the best multi-tool on the market right now is the Leatherman rebar. I think the most interesting one might be the Bond, just because it's such a throwback. That's what I'm probably going to get. The Skeletool sounds cool. I don't know. We will see in the next episode what the next multi-tool I will buy is. Thank you guys for watching.